So there are several solutions to fix this problem. For anybody who is watching this video, you're probably watching it because you're running into huge issues with your controller, whether it be playing a first-person shooter or playing an RPG. Your gun's either aiming by itself or your character is moving by itself. So we're going to walk through some solutions to fix this with the Xbox One controller today. There are several different solutions. I'm going to start with the easiest one, guys. It involves removing a piece from the joystick module, and I'm going to move to a more complex fix for this, which involves actually adjusting the module itself. So I'd first like to give some backstory with this. The reason why this is happening are the modules that were put into the Xbox One controllers are actually very cheap. Microsoft chose the cheap route to save some money when they were releasing the console so they could lower the price to compete with the PS4. So unfortunately, the modules inside of these controllers are absolute garbage. They're foreign made from China, and they're the cheapest way that Microsoft could go. So the life expectancy of these actual joystick modules is about 3 months. It's actually pathetic for people who play frequently like me, which I play Call of Duty and RPGs, etc. People that play frequently, that's probably less than 30 days before you start experiencing problems. So Microsoft really chose the cheap route on this. It sucks. If your controller is still under warranty, meaning that if you bought a new controller, if it's within the first 3 months, or if you bought a console and it's a console controller that came with the console and it's within the first year, I would recommend sending the controller back to Microsoft for a newer controller before you attempt to fix it, because you're going to void the warranty once you break into the back of this controller, guys. And the newer controllers that Microsoft is making actually has the newer modules that last a little bit longer. So call them, send it in for a warranty exchange, and tell them that you want one with newer modules, because it's really, really tedious, and you don't want to have to deal with that problem again. But getting into it, guys, the first solution, like I said, that we're going to be talking about is the easiest solution. And what we're going to need to do is turn over the controller to the back. We're just going to be removing a component from the joystick module, whichever joystick you're having problems with. So to start this, just simply open up the back and remove the batteries. You're going to have to break through this sticker right here on the back underneath the battery compartment to gain access to that screw so you can disassemble the controller. So before I go any further, I would like to state that what you're going to need for this is one very, very, very small flathead screwdriver set. Make sure you got some different bits. You're going to have to find one that is going to fit inside of these screws, as they are tamper-proof screws. If you have a tamper-proof screw set, that will work as well. Most people don't have those tamper-proof screw sets, but a simple, very small flathead screwdriver will work. You just need to find a bit that is small enough. You're going to need some tape, whether it be Scotch tape or packing tape or electrical tape. Some tape that's not really that adhesive, and you're going to need a flat surface or a bowl or something to store the screws so you don't lose any of the screws, as we want to be able to put the controller back secure so it's not loose, you're not having any components, rocking around inside of there, and make sure everything's nice and secure and tight. But getting into it, guys, there's 5 screws you have to remove to disassemble the controller. There's the one right there I just showed you, and you pop off these plastic pieces on either side. You can either use a flathead screwdriver or your fingernails to get up underneath of them and simply pop them off. They remove that easily. Just make sure you don't apply too much pressure, don't break anything. So you have the screw in the center, and then you have a screw right here, and a screw right here, one right here, and one right here. So there are 2 on the right side, 2 on the left side, and 1 in the center. There's 5 screws you need to remove. And just remember to use a very small flathead screwdriver. Kind of go in at an angle and get the flathead screwdriver on one side of that screw, because it's a safety secure screw, tamper-proof, and just rotate it counterclockwise. So get all 5 of those screws out, guys. I've already got those removed for you all, just to speed up the process of this video. But like I said, if you have a tamper-proof screw set, obviously that's going to work better, but many people don't have that. A small flathead screwdriver, if you find the right size, will work to remove those. Once you're done with that and the screws are removed, we're just going to rotate the controller this way, and we're going to remove the faceplate. It should just lift right up now. So once the faceplate is removed, guys, all we're going to need to do is just remove these rubber joystick pieces off the modules themselves. They simply just pop up, as you can see. And this fix is the easiest fix. It involves removing a small plastic piece on the joystick module itself. I don't know if you all can see it right there. It's right to the left of the module, and it's a very small gray plastic piece. And what that is used for is to keep the joystick module in place and keep it from rocking back and forth. However, it's not really needed once you have the faceplate on. It's just there as an extra precaution to keep it more secure. However, the problem that many people are experiencing is that plastic piece is starting to get loose and raise up. Anytime that they're using the controller, if you use your controller quite frequently, those pieces are starting to raise up and it's starting to jam up the controller and cause joystick drift. So I've seen a lot of tutorials online, guys, about removing these and gluing them back down to make them more secure. But I highly recommend against that, as it could cause huge problems with your controller. And if you get glue or super glue anywhere else in those modules, it's going to cause huge problems. You all are going to be stuck with a controller that you can't even use anymore. But this is the piece I just removed. Put it up to where you all can see it. It's just a very small gray piece of plastic that was on the side of the joystick module. So see if I can get this close to show you all where it was. It was right there. So removing that has resolved the issue for many people. That's the easiest solution. After you remove that piece, you're going to want to clean out the joystick module. So obviously, I recommend air duster if you have something else or you just want to blow down underneath of those. Just make sure you don't get any condensation inside of those joystick modules. That definitely will cause problems, but you all are going to want to take some air duster. Make sure you keep it vertical. Do not tilt the air duster on its side or upside down. You want to avoid getting any of that condensate inside of the actual joystick module itself. And blow around the joystick module on the inside of it. Just move it around a little bit and repeat the process to get any dead skin cells or dust that would be underneath there and clean out all of that gunk. But once you have that done, guys, all you need to do is just simply put the little rubber pieces back on the joystick modules, put the faceplate back on the controller, and then put all 5 screws back in place. Like I said previously, make sure that you keep those screws somewhere secure so you're not going to lose those. You're going to need all 5 of those to make the controller secure to keep any components from moving around inside. Once you have those screws back in place, just pop the pieces of plastic back on the side, put your batteries back in, and test your controller. And that should resolve the issue. That has worked for a lot of people. So if you're still running into the problem where that did not resolve the issue for you, then that means that the joystick modules themselves are off calibration and you have been very rough on your controller. So I'm going to show you all how to adjust the joystick module itself. This is a little bit more complicated. I'm going to show you all how to adjust the joystick module itself. This is a little bit more complicated. Same principle though, guys. You're going to take the controller apart, unscrew those 5 screws, remove the rubber pieces from the joystick modules, and this is where it gets to be a little bit more complicated because we have to disassemble the controller a little bit more. You're going to want to go ahead and grab to the left by the motors and lift up the controller from the backing. You want to remove the back of the controller and sit that to the side. Now this is where the tape comes into effect. We're going to be flipping this controller around a lot, guys and gals, so you want to tape down both of these motors over here that cause the vibration, the dual shock for the controller. We're gonna tape those down just to make sure that they don't move around. So grab your electrical tape or any tape that you have, just make sure it's not too adhesive. You don't want to leave any gunk in your controller, and just tape down those 2 motors to make sure that they do not pop out. And we're going to turn the controller over on its back after we're done with this. So make sure they're nice and secure. As you can see, now I can turn the controller upside down and those motors won't fall out. Whereas if we didn't have the tape there, then you turn it up, then you got those dropping out on you, and it's really quite annoying when you're trying to work on the controller. So just make sure that you have a piece of tape to keep those in place. It'll save you a lot of time, a lot of annoyance. turn the controller upside down, and this is where it gets to be a little more complicated. We're going to be separating the two motherboards from the controller, the two circuit boards, and we're going to do this to get down at this part right here, this part of the joystick module. We're going to need to get to that at an angle, and we're going to be able to adjust it. And I'm going to explain to you all how to do that in detail, but first thing is first, we are going to need to remove these screws. So there's a screw right here. Make sure you all can see it. There's a screw right there. There's a screw right here. There's a screw right here behind the motor and a screw down here behind the motor on the far left-hand side and far right-hand side. So you're going to need to remove these screws by the motor, this screw right here and this screw right here. You really don't have to mess with these. That's if you want to completely disassemble the entire thing and clean it. If you have a lot of dust in your controller and it's really old, you can remove all of them and separate both of the motherboards and get a really detailed cleaning of the controller. However, to do this solution, you're just going to have to remove these two screws. But yeah, like I said, this is a little bit more of a complicated method. We're going to remove these two screws on the far bottom right and far bottom left so we can separate this circuit board from the bottom circuit board and get down at these joysticks to adjust them manually at an angle. So bear with me as I will fast forward through the video. I'm going to go ahead and remove these screws and I will continue after that. Alright guys and gals, I got the two screws removed from the motherboard, the bottom right hand screw behind the bottom right motor and the bottom left hand screw behind the bottom left motor. So those screws are a little bit smaller than the 5 screws we removed from the back of the controller, so you're going to have to find a flathead bit that's a little bit smaller than the one used for those, or a tamper-proof bit that is a little bit smaller. And once you have those removed, you're just going to take the motherboard, the front-facing motherboard closest to you, and you're going to pull up on it slightly. Be very gentle. Of course, the professional way to do this would be to use a desoldering tool and remove the wires and desolder everything to pull the board out completely. However, we're going to save some time. There's no need to do that as long as you're gentle and very secure in your grip. Make sure you don't apply too much pressure. Wiggle it back and forth and pop that board up. So once you get it loose, guys, you're going to see it moving around. You're just going to grab the board and tilt it forward and try to use the two triggers to hold the board up and propped up inside of a propped up position. As you can see right now, I've got the board propped up and I actually have access down to these joystick modules now. So to adjust the joystick modules, guys, this is where it gets to be a little bit complicated. You're going to use a flathead screwdriver that's the exact same size as the bit that you use to remove the 5 screws originally from the back to disassemble the controller. And what you're going to do is you're going to be adjusting this black centerpiece right here on the module. There's one on both modules for the controller, and whichever joystick module that you're having problems with and you're experiencing drift, you're going to have to adjust that module. So if you're drifting forward or up, you are going to turn that counterclockwise. So to show you how to do this, guys, you just take the flathead screwdriver and you simply put it right in the center of that. It's going to fit perfectly, and you're going to turn that counterclockwise if your controller is having drifting forward or up. And if your controller is having drifting down or backwards, you are going to turn that clockwise. So this is going to actually adjust the joystick module. Make sure you give it about a good 2 to 3 turns, full turns, and once you're done with that, just move the actual joystick around a little bit. Move it around and do it again. Repeat the process a couple times, and it's going to loosen up any gunk or anything that's inside of the module. So that's pretty much it, guys and gals. You just adjust that joystick module. Just remember to turn it counterclockwise if you are drifting up and clockwise if you are drifting down or forward and back. And make sure you take the time to blow this out with some air duster if you have it available, especially when you have the controller disassembled like this. Completely clean it out. And when you put the controller back, my recommendation would be to not add the 5 screws until you have tested the controller. This is kind of trial and error. you might have to do this several times to get it completely cleaned out and make sure that you're adjusting it. So it may fix it a little bit. If you're still drifting forward a little bit, just turn it counterclockwise a little bit more. If you're still drifting back a little bit, just turn it clockwise a little bit more, and just do it until the drift is completely gone. This has been a really successful method. It's just a more complicated method, and it resolved the issue with my controller. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this. This is the joystick I'm having problems with, and I'm having problems with it drifting up, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that counterclockwise. Alright, and this should resolve the issue for me, and I should not be experiencing this problem anymore. I'm going to move the joystick around a little bit. And it's that easy, guys and gals. Just remember to put the controller back correctly. Just push that motherboard back into place. You could do that by lifting up on the two triggers, popping that back underneath of it. Put the two screws back into place in the bottom right-hand corner and bottom left-hand corner behind those motors. And make sure that those are nice and secure. And then you can turn it back around and remove the tape. This is important. Make sure you don't forget about this tape. Remove the tape from the two motors and go ahead and reassemble the controller the same way you took it apart. Put those screws back in. Make sure you test it before you put all of the screws back in case you need to go back in and adjust it. But it's pretty much that easy. I really hope that this helped you guys out. Hopefully it resolved the issue for you and you're no longer experiencing this problem. If you liked the video, please smash the thumbs up button. Please like, subscribe, and share. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.